Hello. Well, good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I see we have our presenters on, so we're going to give our good people a few minutes. And give me 1 second, I'm going to check some of the controls. I will facilitate the meeting. I will ask the questions at first. And then from there, if we have time available, we will open the line for live questions, preferably by them raising their hands or putting the question in the chat, okay? So everyone can hear good, so we're all good, all right.
Yeah.
All right, so just give me 1 second. I'm gonna check some of the controls and then we're gonna get started.